All right, it looks like it's slowing down a bit. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order for the ESInet users group on May 13th, 2026 at 10:02. Jennifer, you started recording already, correct?
Yep, we are recording.
All right, thank you so much. So once again, if you have not signed in, please remember to sign in online, and then we can get moving along. So the first thing on the agenda is a GIS update from Rich, and I want to check if he's on.
I am.
Oh, hi, Rich. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So yeah, if you want to go ahead and provide that update, that'd be great.
Sure. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if I can.
I think you can. I think Jennifer let go of it.
It says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Oh,
Hang on. It looks like Zoom changed their settings again, so I'm working on giving you share stuff.
Okay. I
Is
mean,
there
mine
is there a button to ask?
it just has a share button that I see, and I click it. It says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Okay, one second.
I
There
can
we go.
talk through it
Nope.
too. If okay.
Now you should be able to.
All right. Let's try. Oh, yep. Looks good. Okay. Um, so kind of medium level here. Just want to go through it. We've had more successes. Added so Broomfield and Douglas beginning of this month. This is I just grabbed a report from yesterday of our GIS routing successes for the PSEPs that we have deployed. So they go across the board, kind of. I've always let you know it's usually between 60 and 80% success rate. We're in line with that, more on the higher side. So if I average all these together from yesterday, we're at about a 74% success rate for GIS routing. Again, if GIS routing, if either we don't get the information from the wireless or VoIP carriers, or it's information that's not within an acceptable parameters, we will fall back to SRDB routing, so ESN routing. So yesterday, out of the ones we had deployed, we're averaging about 74%, which is really good. Anything above 70 is very good. So we continue to deploy that. It looks like next month here, the next PSEPs that we have in progress here are these ones. So we're working to turn those up. I believe I talked to Caroline this morning, and Boulder's in a very good place. Probably to go in the beginning of June. We answered some questions for Boulder late last week. So we're going to continue to chug along. We're doing great. Everything's been looking good. So it's going as expected, and we're going to just keep on keeping on here. And as if the numbers I looked at this morning, looking at those numbers, about 21% of all calls in Colorado now are GIS routing. So as we get some of these bigger PSEPs on, that'll climb significantly. And once we get all the PSEPs on, or all the major population area PSEPs on, we'll be looking. It should align close to what just the relatively small amount we've deployed now. We should be looking at between, probably the way this is going, between 70, 80, and 80% of GIS routing for the state. So we'll just continue putting the PSEPs on the infrastructure, going through our processes. It's going pretty well. We look forward to deploying more.
all right. Thanks, Rich. Jackie, I see your hands up, but just real quick, Rich, just so you know, I am also working with Geocom and trying to get our stuff in for the 5 law enforcement agencies in the Arapahoe
Great.
911 Authority.
Awesome.
So you should have that pretty soon.
Great. And that'll make a big difference too. Again,
Yeah.
we're doing, these are on a per PSAP basis, these percentages. But it makes a difference when you deploy high population areas too.
Yeah.
So that'll help.
Okay.
Great. Good news.
Jackie, sorry about that. Go ahead.
That's okay. I just wanted a little explanation on one, where you're getting the percentages, and are there ways to improve these percentages, or is it just a matter of when everybody gets on?
It's well, so these percentages, if you look at like the 50%, that's probably because these are relatively small areas. They might have 2 calls yesterday and one of them processed. So the bigger sample sizes we typically see go up rather than down. The percentages the way I'm running these reports, and we can always have a separate meeting on this if we want. These are all available in the tools that Intrado and Lumen give to the PSAPs through the portal. So there's some standard reports within the portal and it's a report in there. I can tell you the name of the report, but it's a routing report, and it shows that it's, in essence, there's two types of major routing, which are SRDB routing, the old ESN routing, and ECRF, which is the NINA term for GIS routing. Then you'll see other columns in there like default routing or ESRN routing, which should be incredibly low numbers. They don't happen very often, but there is a routing report given through that portal, and PSAPs can run this for themselves too. Again, what I say is between 60 and 80%. That's what we're seeing. Wireless carriers, the best I've seen them do is right around 80. I've seen them come a little bit more than 80 just recently. And it really depends for that to go up, it really depends on the technology on the wireless side to change. And it is changing. They're adding new ways to better location accuracy technology like Bluetooth and other assisted GPS solutions within their system. So I think through time, we'll see that slowly go up from 80%. Other things that would affect Colorado are once we get all the road center line and address point data from the PSAPs, and that's kind of an evolution. If PSAPs are ready to send that to us now, we can take it, and we'll start assigning those road center line and address point information to actual wireline numbers. So right now, wireline numbers are still using ESN routing because we don't have latitude and longitudes associated to them, because the reason we don't have latitude and longitudes associated to them is because we don't have the road center line or address point information layer. That usually comes through with I3. But if PSAPs want to send that to us, we'll start processing that and start associating latitude and longitude to wireline records as well, and that would do GIS routing. It doesn't make there isn't a big benefit, I would say, in wireline GIS routing, because it is a static address, and ESN routing is sufficient for that. It doesn't change, right? When we get an XY from a wireless carrier, that makes a difference because it allows us to properly plot exactly where they are. With wireline, it's a static address before, it's a static address after. What makes the difference with wireline GIS is when we get to the policy routing functions, all the next gen cool stuff that's coming with our system and with I3, where you could, create a specific shape, let's say for a special event. Then that's when we want to have the wireline XYs in there, because then we would use that special event shape or specialized routing, and we'd want to encompass wireline as well. So sorry, that was a big answer to a short question. The wireline wireless routing successes should go up through time as they change their technologies. As we get in the street road centerline data for wireline, the GIS percentages will go up for that as well. So, we're seeing more like it used to be half, and then it was 20%. Now we're seeing more like 5 to 10% of all calls are wireline. So if all of those were geocoded, we'd see this bump up by probably about 5 or 10 more percent. But from a wireline perspective, it won't really make a difference where that routes to right now because it's a static number.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Hopefully that I got there one way or another.
It did. It just sounds like there's not anything we can do on our end to improve these numbers other than as we get more maps and that kind of data. Okay.
Yep. And they will go up. So, averaging, again, the best places, and we do this all across the country, if we're in the 70s, that's really good. And we are in the 70s for Colorado. As we include more big population areas, there's higher percentages in big population areas for wireless carriers because of the various location technologies they have are more prevalent in big population urban areas. So it'll just climb as we get more. But I would say we'll probably be somewhere between 75 and 80% when we're all done here. And that's, with wireless and with the amount of phones that are out there that are older and use older technology, 80% would be an amazing number to strive for at this point in the industry.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Rich.
Sure.
Anybody else have any questions for Rich?
Hey, Kathy, this is Kimberly. I'm driving, so I can't raise my hand.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Rich, does the stats change if that particular PSAP or authority has implemented LBR? Would that assist? So, to Jackie's question, asking if there's anything we could do, does that help with accuracy?
It probably not, because we're just redoing what they're doing. So if they do LBR, then they're making the routing decision before they send it to us. They have their own sets of maps, so they will take their XY that they have prior to sending the call into the system, map it, and send it over. We then, when it comes into our system, we rebid it to get the most updated information. So I don't believe it will help. I don't completely understand that side of it. If they adjust timers to get location information faster to do LBR, then it's a possibility. But I maybe I don't have enough information to answer that, Kimberly. I don't think it helps, but it's always good to do in my mind. It gets it more accurate from their perspective on the initial send into the system, and then we revalidate it and replot it if we need to. So if they plot it, let's say their LBR, their cell site falls on a border of Longmont and Boulder, but their LBR allows them to say definitively this is Boulder, that's good for everybody. When it comes into us, we do the same thing, and we have the most updated maps. We don't always know exactly what maps the wireless carriers are using. We know where our maps came from, which is from you folks, and they're updated consistently. So we then take that call. We get a new XY, which may be the same XY they used for their LBR, or because a little time has passed, we may have a new XY, and then we replot that. So they may tell us it's Boulder, and maybe that person was driving in that 5 seconds they drove into Longmont's boundary. We'll get the new XY, we'll plot it, and if it falls into Longmont, we won't use their routing, we'll use the routing we decided. So generally speaking, it's a good thing. It makes the initial call into the system more accurate. We revalidate it with the maps that you've provided us and with an updated XY. But whether or not it improves the overall, whether or not we're going to GIS route or not, I don't think it does. That was a lot of information. Sorry. Again,
No,
I got
that's good.
I like to give more information than less, just to try to educate a little bit, Kimberly. But if you have any more questions, let me know.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Matt, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, Rich, great discussion. On the LBR question, Rich, do you know, in general, if the phone companies are producing LBR themselves, or are they using an intermediary mobile positioning center provider such as Intrado, Comtech, or another company that actually does that LBR?
Yeah, it's mostly the latter. So I know Intrado, our mobility side of the house, supports that solution. So they have, yes, they go through, Comtech supports it. For certain carriers, Intrado supports it. for AT&T and for a couple other tier 2 carriers. I think Comtech does Verizon, and some of T-Mobile. I know there's some Cinch relationships that I think Cinch does the actual handles the circuits, the voice routing into the system, but I think Verizon handles T-Mobile's LBR. I think that's how it works. But the answer is yeah, it's typically done through third-party providers.
Right on. Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Anyone else have a question? All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much, Rich.
Yeah, I'm happy to report good news as always.
Yeah. Okay, we can move on. Next up is going to be the metrics and reports review. Tracy, are you on?
Morning, guys.
There you are.
Sorry, I was just finishing our activation with Morgan County. So let me get my feet up here. Let's see. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our April metrics review. The first graph here for the month of April, test completion codes. As a reminder, this is testing network performance. So it's just the constant pings to the servers, and everything for the month of April is falling into where we would expect it to. Normal tariff ranges, if you will. MOS by PSAP. If you look at the next graph down here, this, as opposed to network testing, this is our voice quality. Across the board, we like to see everything at a 4 or above. And in this case, for the month of April, this was successful. And then if we flip it, instead of going by PSAP, the next chart is going to show us by ECMC routing. And again, this is something where we like to see those numbers right out on above the number 4 on the left. And we see that both for the Denver and Miami sides for the month of April. Packet loss percentage. This is the one less than, oops, sorry, lost in the place. Less than or equal to the 0.5. Anything that goes above that line, we would submit to the NOC and have it investigated. Again, this shows both Denver and Miami under that 0.5 for the month of April. The last one down here, the only difference is we do these measurements in microseconds so that they'll show up. Less than or equal to 20 milliseconds is what we're looking for on this one. So again, for the month of April, everything falls into the tariff requirements and nothing set off alarms within the month.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. Anybody have any questions for Tracy? All right. Moving on, next issues tracker, Tracy again. And then also attached to that is please describe testing process for both Ethernet equipment and last mile diversity at each PSAP.
Yeah, I did see that, and Jeff and I were talking. I can speak to the activation piece where we have like the new routers and we're activating the Ethernet circuits. Last mile and diversity, and Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is going to need one of our engineers, either Kevin Newton or Steve DeLoach, to speak to that, because that is prior to when I take on the project. I don't think, Jeff, is it one of our engineers?
Sorry, I was trying to get my mute off. Yes, that would be correct. I think we're going to need to reach out to probably Steve and or Kevin on that and see if we can get some clarification or information on it. Okay.
So I can take back specific questions that you guys have on those. Like I said, I can explain the activation testing process and the ORT that takes place when we actually do the activation and cutover. I just finished one with Morgan County right before this call. I think we've completed, I want to say 23 sites so far. So I definitely can cover that piece of it if you guys would like.
Hey Tracy, this is Steve. I'm on.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, and I guess just to clarify that, when you do your testing for the new circuits that's installed. When we have last mile diversion, it's documented. When we have a test call on circuit A and we unplug or whatever we do to call the transition of the circuit B, that is the testing of the last mile. Because if the last mile wasn't operational, when that call needed to fail over to the second circuit, it would fail. So there is no like separate test we do for the last mile provider other than we do the continuity test doing the activation and make sure the circuit is good end to end. And once that's done, then once you do when we make the configuration changes and we start that shortened ORT testing where we get a call up on circuit A, disconnect, decommission that, and that call should transition seamlessly over to circuit B. That is that last mile testing.
Fantastic. I'm doing it and I didn't even know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay. So Jennifer, yes, I misspoke. And yeah, I will tell you what we do. I didn't realize it was all taking place at the same time. So, because it's a lot of it is just within the network. So we should be fine. And if we need, it sounds like we have some done too. So, as far as the tracker network project, this top one here is specific to S Park. We did start this again. I have Tamika helping me kind of push the jobs through. I do know, and I don't know if it happened yet, there is going to be a follow-up site survey, Kimberly, because since it was stalled for a little bit, they just need to go back out and make sure all the equipment is still there and ready to move forward. If it's not, they'll correct the issue and move forward. But we do have Estes Park moving along again, just like the rest of the locations. As far as the calls with no usable alley, that one, Michelle was working with the NOC and the PSAP directly. I haven't seen resolution, but I also haven't seen that there's been any new issues. I don't know if we have someone on from Wesco that has a better update or not, because I don't think Michelle is on.
Yeah, this is Alex from Metza. We haven't had any new call examples for them to look, so there's no new update to that one.
Okay. Let's leave it on here just to make sure. I know a couple of times we put it to monitoring and it seems like every once in a while it creeps back up. So just kind of keep looking at it. I don't have anything new on the transfers from Colorado to New Mexico. I thought we were close and we were going to be prepared in April to do a test call with Durango, but there's been some additional communication between Motorola and Entrado. And we haven't been able to finalize a date to make those test calls. I did clarify that while we would be starting with Durango, we will test, just like we did for the Nebraska side, we'll test every PSAP, both directions, and make sure everything is working. For statewide ECATs, still a few guys out there that don't have this loaded. I know that Blackhawk has reached out and is working directly with Entrado to try to get that site up and running on ECATs, just pending some IP information that needs to be returned. And once Entrado has that, we'll be sending out the RDDM and getting them rolling on ECATs. For the network performance projects, looks like we're going to go into a little bit more detail on this here in a minute. Moving forward on our side, I think last time I checked, and I actually pull the exact metrics tomorrow evening, we have about 53% of the circuits in place. And like I mentioned, I think there's 22 or 23 sites where we're completely done. The activation has taken place. Entrado shows successful calls going through on the new Ethernet circuits. So moving forward on those, I have additional locations scheduled between now and then I think Boulder County Sheriff will go on June 9th. So we're doing them every week through June 9th. At that point, we are caught up to just needing to wait for some more circuits to be prepared. So I think the activation side's going pretty well. We've had a couple where cable needed to be run. Today was an example, but we were very fortunate. Morgan County was great and they had their IT person there and they ran the cable and, put us behind by maybe 5 minutes. So it was great. On these last two, I did reach out to Paul Brown prior to this meeting, but I did not get a response back. I know that he has been communicating directly with Daryl, but not being part of those conversations, I don't have an update on this last part.
Hey, I think I had it. This is the Poi location, Tracy.
This is part of that, and there were a couple other conversations that they were having separately, but yes, part of it is
Yeah.
location. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dar, this is Steve. I talked with Doug, and I can send you an email. We've identified, let's see here. Going back to my email, hold on. We've identified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 locations for these IP poise in state. And I'll send those to you so you can socialize that with the other RLECs in the state and kind of just give us some guidance on, the first and second choices. Because the other thing I want to make sure of is whichever two we utilize, that we got the level of diversity that we need. So Trace, I'll get this email sent to you and you can forward it on to the appropriate parties.
That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
All right. I'm sending it to you right now, Tracy.
Okay, great.
And listen, this is hot off the press. I just got it this morning, so not something that we kind of been holding on, but you can just take a look at them and reach out to the providers and see which ones won't work for them. Maybe that's a better solution. Which ones won't work for them, and we can eliminate those, and then we have what's left.
All right, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
I know we covered the GIS, but carbine or any?
I'm not sure, but I know Matt has his hand up.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
from the BESP's perspective, does that information that you're going to be sharing include sort of the company's ranking or feasibility preferences regarding these POIs?
All of these are in Lumen central offices. So I think we've got diversity, so it really doesn't matter to us right now.
So, okay. So there's no preference given to locations that might have higher tiers of regional or national connectivity.
No, I don't think that would be applicable here, because I think, all we're doing is, like I said, these COs are Lumen provided facilities. They're on our national backbone network, so that the RLEC can get the traffic to those poor locations. We can get it to Longmont and Miami.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And like I said, I think when we originally talked about this, instead of us saying, here's the two in state, and we still have our national IP pores. So anybody that wants to, and I'll put those in the email as well, anybody that just wants to build to our national IP pores, which I don't think many will, they can. But what we then want to do is say, hey, here are the two IP pore locations, and some of those smaller RLECs may say, hey, I can't get that for whatever reason. So that's why we were going to provide a list and kind of get feedback from those guys if one didn't work for them. I would imagine, since these guys already probably have network infrastructure going to our DCO locations, that they probably don't have a preference. But we just want to make sure we get feedback from anybody, so it doesn't feel like we're forcing anything down them to say it's one way or no way.
So that alternative POI locations for the RLECs was my next question. So thanks for that info.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. Tracy, go ahead. If you have anything left, I wasn't sure.
I mean, I don't think I do. I'm happy to share. You know, I know that I am working on a few of the carbine transitions. We just received the due paperwork back. This would be the carbine tab, so a couple more. And we're waiting. Takes about 30 days on the Entrado side for Ken to go in and do what he needs to do. So for Durango, thank you for sending that back in. Westminster and Broomfield, we do have in the queue, but we have not received that document back. So once we get that back, we'll be able to update the Broomfield Westminster. Denver 911, they've had a couple meetings end of April and early in May. From what I was told on the calls, the SBCs weren't configured or ready. So we're still waiting on Carbine to move forward with the Denver migration. I don't have an estimated date for that one yet.
All right, sounds good. Any questions for Tracy on that?
Good.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. I don't see Tim Kunkelman. He's up next for the new proposed improvement plan. Is there anybody that has an update on that?
Yeah, Tressa's on.
Oh, sorry,
Hey,
Tressa.
no worries. So regarding the 2027 network improvement plan, intervention was last week. So we've been reaching out to the parties to schedule a meeting, hopefully for next Tuesday. And then the current network improvement plan, we did file our first quarter status report back on April 30th. But that's all that we have for that.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Tressa?
Tressa, this is Kimberly. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
When you say you reached out to the parties, does that mean you've reached out to legal?
I believe so. I believe so, yes.
And then CenturyLink indicated they were going to have informational meetings, a series of them in May, just to talk through and answer questions. And I don't believe those ever got scheduled, but Steve did communicate back some preferences. Is CenturyLink not going to do that now with the whole ESInet group?
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I know we did the intervention was last week. So we're kind of moving forward on that with to meet with those parties. There were two larger groups that we'll be meeting with.
Hey, Tressa, this is Steve. So
Yeah.
we are in the process since we're, kind of going through this piece with Tim, but we are working on the deck so that we can start communicating to the ESInet user group exactly what this improvement plan for 2027 is, kind of give you step by step. This is component A, B, and C. So that deck is in the progress that we on the SE solution engineering team has ownership of that. But it is coming, and we definitely, if we don't get it started in May, we'll definitely get it started 1st of June. But we are finalizing that deck.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you filling in on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
I will say, excuse me.
I'm sorry, Steve, go ahead.
No, and I will say what we're doing is we're going to really keep it high level to kind of talk about, number one, what it is, and then number two, the benefit to the individual agency and the state of that solution. So that's what we're going to be doing. I figure it'll take about 30 minutes to kind of walk through the solution components, and then we'll leave time for Q&A.
So I guess I have just a couple of follow-up questions then. Steve, are you also going to provide an opportunity for maybe a deeper technical discussion if there are individuals that want to have not just a high-level conversation about how all the technology works? Because it's different. I mean, thinking about low Earth orbit Starlink, it's great. It's just very new for us. And so I think there's probably going to be some technical folks that are going to be intrigued with how it all works and how it's all going to pull together.
Absolutely not an issue.
Okay. And then the other question.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So CCOA and and Steve, on behalf of the ESInet, did ask for some contacts at other states, other PSAPs, other authorities that you guys have deployed this technology, just so we could talk to them about it. That was just a pending ask, and we haven't heard back from Tim on that.
Okay, I'll get with.
This is Jeff. I'm still working on getting those contact information. In fact, I just reached back out to get the status on that.
Great, thanks, Jeff.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Steve, I'm sorry, just for my own confirmation, so then we can still be looking forward to those meeting invites coming out, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Tressa, nothing else from your end?
No, that's all I have. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, moving along, the next thing I have is a follow-up to CenturyLink's presentation at the NINA APCO conference, and that would be Jeff Winkleman and Jennifer Kirkland.
Good morning. The conference, in my opinion, excuse me, at least from the vendor standpoint, was a great conference for those that had missed it, unfortunately. So I really appreciate the opportunity that we were given on Wednesday to be able to speak for Cindy and I. What I wanted to do is, for a better follow-up, I think we had a couple of takeaways and questions that came out of that. One of them specifically, and Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong here, was in regards to the 30, 60, 90-day outline. And we had a couple of good questions during that conversation. And what I'd like to propose and see if we could do is to look for a couple of dates that we can actually take a meeting to dig into that a little deeper. As Tracy had explained, this is a starting point, and we want to make it a collaboration to work with you and to make sure that we're giving you what you're looking for. So I think the next best step would be to set up a time that we can all discuss and go into specifics on that, as far as when the timeline would start and things like that. So Jennifer, am I missing anything on that?
Sorry, I'm having
there
mouse
you are.
issues. No, but I did have many people at the conference come up afterward and ask about that timeline. And so I think that CenturyLink committing to that timeline ASAP would be a good thing. Cindy also sent me the slide deck for the presentation. But before I sent it out to the ESInet users group, I wanted to make sure that it was okay to send that out to the ESInet users group. Because we have a lot of people in this group today that weren't at the meeting, and so maybe a quick overview, not a representation of that meeting, but just kind of a quick overview of what you said at the meeting might be helpful here, Jeff.
Sure. No, as far as sharing that, if Cindy had sent that to you, then yes, go ahead and send that out and share that. Are you able to bring that up on the screen?
Maybe. My computer is behaving weird this morning, so I'll work on that while you overview.
Okay, so a high-level overview, the whole purpose of it was communication. We know in the past that it's been a struggle, and we've been working on making the changes for that. And Cindy came up with a plan that we believe is going to help with that overall. There were a couple of different things, and I unfortunately don't have it in front of me, so I'm going off of memory off of this. But one of the ideas, or one of the things that was presented, was a tracker, as far as a weekly tracker, and to be able to have a central point, excuse me, to be able to reference that and go and take a look at it. Oh, there it is. So the 30, 60, 90 day, you can see there, I don't need to read to you what it is, but we're going to be able to get the PSAP tracker and actually get the rhythm going for that. But this again, and I believe, I can't remember who had mentioned it, saying as far as more granular. So we want to be able to work with you to find out specifically what you're looking for on this. So this was a starting point. But the overall timeline, that's the biggest piece that we need to be able to come up with. So I'll have to work with Tracy and Cindy as far as that timeline. And then, like I said, I think it would be a good idea to be able to at least have one meeting that we can go ahead and set up a call to be able to discuss that a little bit further.
That sounds good. Jeff, I just also wanted to remind you, I know you wrote it down, but we also had talked about the condition 4 routing.
Exactly. I'm trying to get that information. Yep.
Okay. Tracy, I think you were ahead of Jennifer with your hand up.
That's okay. Jennifer can go, and then I can be.
Oh, I was just gonna say, maybe we could just plan on talking about it at the June ESInet users group meeting.
As far as the timeline and the details on the proposal?
Yeah, it might just be me, but I'm confused about why we're looking at setting another meeting when we've got the ESInet users group already on the agenda or on the calendar.
Sure. No, that's fine. I will set up some time with Tracy and Cindy, and we'll go into this a little more and come up with more granular outline and as far as the timeline. So no, I agree. One more calendar invite is not always needed.
And Jeff, just so you know, it looks like Cindy's trying to join, but she can't hear anything. So
I did see that pop up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sorry, Jennifer, did I cut you off?
I was going to say the same thing.
Oh, okay. Okay. Any other questions for Jeff?
I will put this slide deck into the ESInet users group meeting materials for today's meeting for those who missed it.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jennifer.
Hey, Kathy. I just wanted to ask, I know Jeff and I will have the internal call to kind of discuss, that timeline. And if you look at the 30-day, the first 30 days, the first box there, I know that first one, getting the PSAP tracker updated and going, that definitely falls into PMO. So I would be creating and generating that. And the ask I have is, it'd be real good to have an outline or an idea of what you guys are looking for on a PSAP by PSAP basis, right? Like right now it's on the project that's existing, but if I have a tracker that shows each PSAP, what type of inventory, what type of status would you be looking for? Knowing that, specific dates aren't always available from our vendors, but do we want to know, which PSAPs are on the ESInet, which ones have ECATs? Because in the past, all we've done is track the existing projects. If there's more, I would be open to either discussing it in June on the call, or if it's easier, if PSAPs have ideas or suggestions, email them to me and we'll start to compile a list of what people want to see. Like Jeff mentioned, we're happy to make changes and give more information, but it would be helpful to know what that information is, what you're looking for. And, the escalation ladder, I think we have definitely an idea for customer meetings. I don't know if that was intended outside of this one, but all of those would kind of be falling to Cindy and I. So just more details as to what you'd be looking for as far as tracker and updates.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you for that. So if anybody has any ideas on that or would like to see specific information, please email that to Tracy. And Tracy, I'll also review that and try to develop a list of what could possibly go in that tracker.
Okay.
Any other questions for Tracy? Doesn't look like it. Before I go to public comment, I just wanted to tell everybody on this call that I know Jennifer sent out an email yesterday. The 911 task force meeting that's going to be held tomorrow, it was supposed to be hosted in Littleton. We had to change it to virtual. So I just wanted to make sure to announce that on this meeting so that everybody heard that in case emails get stuck in quarantine or whatever could possibly happen. So if you were planning on traveling to Littleton for the meeting, please don't, because it will be virtual only. And I apologize for to me, it's a last minute delay. I know it was a couple of days or a last minute change, but it was a situation, it was out of our control that happened. So next that we have is the public comment. So non-voting members are welcome to provide comments during this portion of the meeting. Do I have any non-voting members that would like to provide any comments? Jennifer, go ahead.
Not really for public comment, but I just didn't see anything on there for good of the order. I want to let the group know that I asked Entrado and CenturyLink to come prepared to the June meeting to talk about some of the new and or lesser known alternate routing capabilities. Those who are on GIS routing now have new routing capabilities for abandonment situations or for overflow situations that are based on GIS and location-based routing, as well as other routing options. And I bring this up because I know that some of the regional groups are talking about their routing opportunity or their routing options and making sure that those routing are still working for them. So if you are in a group or in a region that's talking about alternate routing and abandonment routing and making sure that those plans are in place, we will be discussing that at the June ESInet users group meeting.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, I'll go back to public comment. Do we have anybody non-voting member who wants to provide any comments? Not seeing anything. Oh, Matt, go ahead.
Also, general comment, we have one less 911 authority in the state now.
Okay.
Metsa has expanded its territory to include all of Uray County, and OSETSA has been terminated.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Hey, Matt, congratulations. I know that's a lot of work.
Yeah, we're still working with the phone companies about the 911 charges, but thanks. We might be a while on that one.
Yeah, that's a little bit of work to get that done. So good luck with that, Matt. I'm sure it'll all work out for you. Okay, anything else? Any other comments? Either non-voting or voting? All right, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 10:49 a.m. again on May 13th. Thank you, everybody, and everyone have a good rest of your day.
Take care, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey.